Well, I'm trying to tell you guys that you got to be in the system to realize the sentence you get. When certain stuff just don't weigh up, it's a mandatory 1-year sentence when you just get $5 worth of stuff.
Fetty Wap walked out the feds on January 8th, 2026, finally free after serving just 3 years of a 6-year drug trafficking sentence. But the streets started buzzing right away. Rumors flew that he might have cooperated to get out early. Now, wild footage is spreading showing his ops pressing him hard right after his release. Was this payback for snitching or something even deeper? Let's break down exactly what went down. Government name Willie Jr. Maxwell II, better known as Fetty Wap, officially touched freedom on January 8th, 2026. Yeah, homeboy got out early. His expected release date was 2029, but federal time credits and good behavior shaved off years. The Bureau of Prisons transferred him to community confinement, basically house arrest, meaning he's out but not really free. Fetty's now on supervised release until November 2030, with the feds keeping tabs on his every move. The rules are no joke. Random drug tests whenever they want. He can't open new bank accounts without getting the green light first. The government wants eyes on every single dollar he touches. No drinking, no unapproved meds, no skipping state lines unless they say so. He's got to check in constantly, and they might even strap an ankle monitor on him if he slips up. These ain't suggestions from probation. These are strict federal orders with real consequences. One mistake, and he's back in that cell instantly. Being on supervised release is basically still serving time, just with a different view.
What seems like damn near just a couple of years ago, because it was, holy smokes, we seen 4 letters pop up. This one, home. That's from his official page. Then he goes on to write this. I want to thank my family, friends, and fans for the love, prayers, and continued support. It truly means everything to me. Right now, my focus is on giving back through my community initiatives and foundation, supporting at-risk young children by expanding access to education, early tech skills, and vision care for young kids and students so they can show up as their best selves. I'm committed to moving forward with purpose and making a meaningful impact where it matters most.
Soon after stepping out, Fetty hit his IG story showing he was finally home. Then he dropped a message thanking his people. Hours later, clips started popping up online. Videos of him back in Jersey surrounded by love, family, day ones, and loyal supporters all pulled up to celebrate his return. The whole block came alive for his homecoming. The clip that broke the internet showed a whole crowd giving Fetty Wap a wild standing ovation. The block was shaking, clapping, yelling, and people screaming 1738 like it was 2015 all over again. It wasn't drama or fake hype. These were real moments of love for someone who'd been gone too long. The video had no tension, no hate, no chaos, just pure joy. Their guy made it home, and the energy was electric. But to really understand what's happening now, you gotta look back at how Fetty ended up in the feds in the first place. His story didn't start with that January 2026 release. It goes way deeper. The fall from a platinum-selling artist to a federal inmate was a long ride full of choices, chances, and major consequences. It all went down in October 2021 at Citi Field in New York. The timing was no accident. The feds planned it perfectly. Fetty was supposed to perform at Rolling Loud NYC that same day, one of the biggest hip-hop festivals on the planet. Thousands of fans were waiting for him to hit the stage when agents swooped in and took him down. They grabbed him along with 5 others after unsealing a federal indictment in Queens. That public arrest wasn't just about catching him, it was a statement. The feds wanted everyone in hip-hop to see the message clear as day. Fame doesn't make you untouchable.
He was arrested yesterday at Citi Field. It was during a music festival in the afternoon before he performed. He's one of 6 indicted for conspiracy to distribute more than 100 kilograms of controlled substances on Long Island and in New Jersey. And those arrested also include a New Jersey correction officer. Officials say Fetty Wap and others involved transported, distributed deadly and addictive drugs, including heroin and fentanyl on Long Island, deliberately contributing to the opioid epidemic.
Prosecutors claim Fetty was tied to a bi-coastal drug ring moving serious product from California to New Jersey and Long Island. They said the operation ran from June 2019 to June 2020, pushing over 100 kilos of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack. That's heavy business.
The multi-million-dollar drug distribution used Suffolk County as their home base. We're told the defendants would get drugs on the West Coast and use the U.S. Postal Service and drivers with hidden compartments to transport the drugs across the country to Suffolk County, where they were stored. Fetty Wap's role, according to officials, a kilogram-level redistributor for the trafficking organization.
The feds weren't playing with this one. The investigation stretched out for months. This wasn't some random traffic stop gone wrong, and it definitely wasn't a quick raid. They'd been watching, listening, and building their case piece by piece until they had everything lined up perfectly.
Fetty Wap didn't get picked up by the police. He got picked up by the feds. And when the feds show up, that means the case been done for a minute. And that wasn't no traffic stop, wasn't no random raid. That was a long play. They had the phones tapped, they had people talking, they had routes mapped, they had numbers counted.
When the hammer finally dropped, the feds seized around $1.5 million in cash, along with cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, pills, straps, and a stash of ammo. This wasn't no corner hustle. This was a full-on operation running across multiple states. The kind of setup where every move was mapped out and the money never stopped flowing. At first, Fetty managed to post bail and walk free while waiting for trial, but that freedom didn't last. By August 2022, his bail was gone. Reports said he violated his release after allegedly threatening to murk somebody during a FaceTime call. A huge mistake that cost him everything. Word was, he even flashed a gun on camera and called the person a rat. The message was loud and clear. He thought somebody had flipped on him. But federal judges don't tolerate that kind of behavior, not even from a celebrity. Threatening witnesses or so-called cooperators is one of the fastest ways to end up back behind bars. The court saw him as a danger and shut that door instantly. By August 2022, Fetty pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute and possess controlled substances, specifically at least 500 grams of coke. That charge carried a 5-year mandatory minimum, and his plea was all strategy.
The judges stop playing, the deals get ugly, and time starts stacking. And Fetty Wap knew what time it was. Before the jury ever heard shit, he pled guilty. That ain't a flex, that's straight up calculation. That's knowing the evidence ugly and trying to limit the damage. The feds don't bluff when it comes to that F-ball either.
Fentanyl had changed the whole game, and the feds were coming down harder than ever. When a federal case involves fentanyl, judges don't play. They come down hard. The opioid crisis changed everything, creating a zero-tolerance attitude in courtrooms nationwide. With tens of thousands of lives lost every year to fentanyl overdoses, prosecutors treat anyone tied to it like they're part of a deadly chain. That stuff's way stronger than heroin. Even a few grains can take a life. So when you're caught moving fent, they see you as feeding the epidemic, not just hustling. Defense attorneys know it's an uphill fight when fentanyl shows up in the paperwork. That one word alone can make a case 10 times harder. Fetty Wap and his legal team understood exactly what they were up against. His lawyers must have laid it all out plain. Fighting the feds could mean gambling with his whole future. With the kind of evidence they had, wiretaps, bank records, physical product, and witnesses, beating the case in trial was nearly impossible. Federal prosecutors win almost every time in court. Once they've got wiretaps and paperwork, their success rate hits nearly 100%. So pleading guilty wasn't about pride, it was about survival. By copping out, Fetty accepted responsibility and opened the door for a slight reduction in time. If he rolled the dice at trial and lost, he could have ended up serving double. His move wasn't about proving innocence. It was about being smart and cutting losses while he still could. On May 24, 2023, inside a federal courtroom in central Islip, New York, the judge handed down his fate, 6 years behind bars and 5 years of supervised release. Since he'd already been locked up since August 2022, that time counted toward the sentence. Prosecutors even tried to flip his own lyrics against him, bringing up Trap Queen to paint him as someone who'd been deep in the game all along. The judge did take Fetty's remorse and family situation into account. But even with that, he still handed down the full 6-year sentence. No special treatment, no shortcuts.
He got out because federal math kicked in. Time served, good time, BOP credits, that's how the Fed time worked. Now he's home, but the argument is just starting. Some people are saying, should he pay his debt? Let him live. Others said, nah, hold on. We need to dig a little bit deeper on here.
Fetty Wap served his time at the Federal Correctional Institution in Sandstone, Minnesota. From getting locked up in August 2022 to walking out in January 2026, he put in about 3 years and 5 months behind the wall. The federal system gives inmates a chance to shave time off through good behavior and participation in programs under the First Step Act. And Fetty took full advantage of that. His original out date was supposed to be sometime in 2029, but those good conduct credits started stacking up fast. First, it got bumped to December 2026. Then more earned time from programs pushed it up again to January 2026. He racked up enough credit to qualify for community confinement, basically house arrest, almost a year before his expected date. The Bureau of Prisons didn't share the exact numbers, but the process is all math. Federal inmates can earn up to 54 days per year for staying out of trouble under Section 3624 of Title 18 of the United States Code, plus extra time off for finishing classes, training, or other approved programs. Every bit of effort counts toward freedom. And despite all those rumors flying around, his lawyer made it crystal clear back in 2022, Fetty Wap was not cooperating with the feds. He's not cooperating with the feds, the attorney said. The plea was clean. No snitching, no testimony against co-defendants, no substantial assistance paperwork, just him owning up and doing his time. Now, Fetty's serving his last stretch on house arrest in New Jersey under the Bureau of Prisons Philadelphia Residential Reentry Management Office. His official release from confinement is set for November 8, 2026. Until then, he's still living under tight watch. Random drug tests, constant check-ins, every dollar tracked, and strict limits on where he can move or what he can do. The feds still got eyes on him every step of the way. The second Fetty Wap walked free early, the internet went wild. Timelines flooded with gossip, theories, and snitch talk everywhere. People were asking the same questions nonstop. Did he cooperate with the feds? Did he trade information for a lighter sentence? Was his freedom bought with testimony against his own circle? Those rumors hit hard and fast. In the world of hip-hop, an early release always raises eyebrows. Being labeled a rat in street culture is no small thing. That word can crush reputations, kill careers, and even put lives in danger. The whisper started right after his guilty plea in August 2022. Some people instantly took that plea as proof he must have cooperated, but that's not how the system really works. Outsiders think, why plead guilty unless you're cutting a deal? Or why admit guilt unless you're flipping? But that logic misses how federal cases actually move. In federal court, pleading guilty doesn't automatically mean you're working with the feds. Most of the time, it's just a strategic move. When prosecutors have mountains of proof, wiretaps catching your voice, surveillance showing meetings, bank records revealing unexplained cash, and witnesses putting you dead center, fighting the case becomes a losing battle. At that point, a guilty plea isn't about snitching, it's about surviving the system. Fetty Wap's lawyer shut all that noise down back in 2022, saying straight up, he's not cooperating with the feds. The attorney made it clear the plea was standalone. No testimony against co-defendants, no special assistance deals, no hidden paperwork. Fetty took the hit for distributing 500 grams of cocaine, and that was it. No names dropped, no info traded, just him owning his role and doing his time. Fetty Wap didn't get any cooperation discount on his sentence, and that's key. The 6-year term proves it. In federal court, when someone truly cooperates, their sentence usually gets chopped down hard. We're talking major reductions below the mandatory minimums. Those who snitch often walk away with half the time or even less because prosecutors file special motions rewarding their substantial assistance. But Fetty's situation was different. He got 6 years when the mandatory minimum was 5, barely above the bottom line. If he had actually helped the feds, that number would have been way lower. His sentence screamed standard time, not cooperation. Still, once he got out, the rumor mill exploded. Social media couldn't stop talking. Posts kept popping up. Did Fetty Wap snitch? How he served 3 years on a 6-year bid? People swore it didn't add up, but it did. The explanation wasn't shady. It was straight up federal math. His early release came from good conduct time and First Step Act credits, both normal parts of the system. Every federal inmate who behaves and stays active in approved programs can earn those reductions. Completing classes, job training, or educational courses adds up credits, and staying clean with no disciplinary issues keeps those credits coming. None of that equals cooperation. It's just how the system rewards positive behavior. Meanwhile, not everyone was buying the snitch rumors. Some voices online stepped in to defend him. One ex-user even posted, "Forget the streets and no snitching allegations. Fetty Wap should be seen as a role model."
Now, we was in the shop talking about the Fetty Wap case out of New Jersey. If 5 man's on a case outside of him a conspiracy, he already had a domestic violence and a DV. Now, it was 220 grams of H and 10 pounds of Fent and also the C. And this man got a sentence of 6 years. That's highly unlikely for a man to get that much less time for that amount of illegal substance in the federal system unless he's working. That's impossible.
That take reflected a lot of respect. Folks appreciated that Fetty didn't try to act tough or feed drama. He handled his business quietly and came home clean. Even Reddit threads broke down the difference between snitching and survival, pointing out that knowing when to accept responsibility doesn't make you a rat. It makes you smart. One online thread nailed it perfectly. "Snitching is saving your own ass," someone wrote, adding they were just shocked he got only 6 years. That comment showed a deeper understanding. Pleading guilty to protect yourself isn't the same thing as selling out your crew. It's a strategy, not a betrayal. No new evidence has ever popped up to prove the snitch rumors either. Court records show no cooperation deals, no assistance motions from prosecutors, and none of his co-defendants' cases were affected by his testimony because there was no testimony. Everything points to a straight guilty plea and standard sentencing. Paranoia doesn't equal proof. Suspicion ain't evidence. The facts are simple. Fetty Wap pleaded guilty, served most of his time, earned standard credits, and walked early under the same federal programs that help thousands of inmates every year. There's nothing rare about that. People just love to turn normal outcomes into conspiracies. Still, on social media, the debate kept rolling. Some argued, with all that weight in the case, 6 years sounds too light. He had to cooperate. But that take missed how federal sentencing really works. The system runs on detailed guidelines. Judges weigh factors like prior record, acceptance of responsibility, role in the crime, and the exact drug quantity tied to each person. Fetty's case wasn't about the full 100 kilos the Fed said the operation moved. His personal charge only covered 500 grams of cocaine. That's a huge difference. And since he didn't have a long rap sheet and took accountability early, the judge factored that in. His 5-year mandatory minimum was locked, but his cooperation score was 0. What brought his sentence down wasn't snitching. It was the math of the federal system, plain and simple. The misunderstanding came from people mixing up the total conspiracy with Fetty's individual responsibility. And that's where all the confusion really started. Fetty Wap got 6 years, just 1 year above the mandatory minimum. And that's completely normal. Nothing shady about it. Judges in federal court often hand out sentences slightly above the minimum based on each person's exact role and situation. That extra year probably reflected his part in the operation and the circumstances around it. If Fetty had really cooperated, his sentence would have been way shorter, maybe 2 or 3 years tops, sometimes even just time served. 6 years straight up means no cooperation deal was in play. But the snitch talk just wouldn't die online. Echo chambers ran wild, and social media kept spinning theories louder and louder. But volume doesn't equal truth.
I'm not trying to tell you guys that you got to be in the system to realize the sentence you get when certain stuff just don't weigh up. It's a mandatory 1-year sentence when you just get $5 worth of stuff. So you got anything over 5 grams is a mandatory 5-year sentence in the federal system. So how do a person get 5 years, 6 years, when it's mandatory 5 years for 5 grams? It's impossible.
The official record completely crushes those claims. His lawyer publicly denied any cooperation. Prosecutors never filed any assistance motions, and none of his co-defendants' cases showed signs of his involvement as a witness. The math, the paperwork, the outcomes, all standard, all clean. What's wild is how quiet the street narrative really is this time. Usually, when a high-profile artist gets out early, the accusations come flying instantly. But with Fetty, there's no real proof and not even credible voices pushing it. That silence says a lot. These rumors got no solid ground. Now, he seems focused on rebuilding his life, talking about community, family, and creating something positive. Those ain't the words of someone ducking street smoke. Those are the words of a man trying to move forward and make his comeback count. These sound like the words of a man trying to rebuild his life after real losses, harsh lessons, and a messy past. Behind the fake death rumors and all that snitch talk sits a bigger question. Does Fetty Wap actually face danger now that he's home? To figure that out, you gotta look at his history in the rap world, his old beefs, and where those relationships stand today. So far, there haven't been any credible reports of threats since he touched down on January 7th, 2026. When people started digging, the only thing popping up was that 2022 incident, the one where he made a threat over FaceTime against someone he called a snitch. That's what got his bail snatched back then, but that was him talking tough, not being targeted.
His music went quiet. It went straight up. Nobody was listening to that shit no more. The hit stopped, the buzz dried up, the sound moved on. But by the time he touched the cell, Fetty wasn't even competing with no new rappers. His ass was already done. So really, he's competing with his own self. So prison don't pause your music career like we always see. It does erase a little bit of momentum, but the algorithm don't care about your case, playlists don't care about your struggle, and nostalgia only goes so far.
Back in 2017, though, things were different. In his hometown of Paterson, New Jersey, tensions were wild. Street drama boiled over into a full-blown shooting involving Raheem Fuzz Thomas, someone linked to a violent confrontation tied to Fetty. It all came from old local rivalries that stretched way before his legal downfall. Those were real situations, real violence with real consequences. But that was years ago, and time changed everything. Fetty's been locked away, and the other players either caught their own cases, backed off, or just grew past it. From all appearances, those beefs have cooled off for good. Still, not every issue in Fetty's life was street-related. He had business friction too, like with P. Dice, a former collaborator who sued over royalties. That fight was all about money, not violence. Stuff like that usually plays out in courtrooms, not on corners. Then came the family drama, and it hit quick. Within just 24 hours of his release, things exploded online. Ika, Keisha, and Leslie Lauder, mothers of his children, jumped on X, calling him out heavy. They accused him of being a deadbeat dad, blasting all those videos of him coming home. Where's the video of him going to see his kids?
So the real question ain't about jail, it's about what's next. Do y'all think Fetty can come home and shake it up again? Or is this one of them times where the streets still respect you, but the gang had already moved on? Is this the comeback waiting to happen, or is the closure for a run that already ended?
The internet lit up instantly. While the block was celebrating his freedom, his personal life was already throwing shade. A messy reminder that freedom doesn't mean peace, especially when family starts airing it all out online. The words online were harsh, real public callouts, but they were about parenting, not violence. It's important to separate the two. These weren't enemies plotting revenge. These were women demanding accountability from the father of their kids.
Oh, listen, man. Listen, shout out to Fetty Wap, bro. Shout out to him. Me personally, on the music tip, I don't necessarily think it's over, but I think if he tries to go back and recreate that sound, I think that's going to be gone. He can add elements of that shit, but the question is, who's going to embrace him? Who is good enough in the rap game to embrace him? Because if I'm Drake, Iceman ain't came out yet. Get Fetty Wap on the hook on the beginning song. Fetty Wap, you know what to do. First Day Out the Feds, Part 2.
Co-parenting drama like this brings tension, embarrassment, and emotional strain, but it doesn't usually turn dangerous. It's frustration spilling out online, not a setup for something physical. Meanwhile, social media users threw more heat, but from another angle. Some people went after Fetty's past, especially his connection to dealing drugs. One post read, "He's the reason the youth is dying," calling him out for his involvement with fentanyl. That's not a threat, that's moral judgment. It's folks venting about real harm linked to the drug trade, criticizing choices that had deadly consequences. It's harsh, yeah, but it's still just public accountability, not personal danger. If there were real threats out there, we'd see signs of them online. That's where beef always surfaces first, on X, Instagram, or comments under viral clips. That's where rivals talk slick and ops drop warnings before things ever hit the streets. But searches for threats against Fetty Wap show nothing but welcome home videos, family drama, and random criticism. No real warnings, no violent talk.
We don't give a damn about your personal life, bro. We don't. We care about a time in our personal life when your music hit for us and created a moment, and then we listen to it and now we get nostalgic about it. We care about growth in your music. We don't give a shit about you, the person. You don't give a shit about us. You care about providing what the fans or people who support your music like, and the fans and supporters care about the music. That's the problem with these entertainers, because not at one point in time do y'all sit up here and really give back. Hell no, y'all don't. Y'all get sponsors, y'all get people to help out. Not saying that you should spend your own cash.
Even the media's coverage backs that up. TMZ's story focused only on the logistics of his release. Not a single line about security or protection. The New York Post did the same, breaking down his home confinement but skipping any mention of danger. If serious threats were floating around, those outlets would have jumped on it instantly. And then there's the proof in plain sight, that homecoming footage. Huge crowds, open space, and everyone celebrating out loud. If Fetty Wap truly felt unsafe, he wouldn't have stepped out like that. His team never would have risked a public welcome if danger was in the air. The fact that he looked relaxed and smiling shows one thing loud and clear. He doesn't feel like anyone's coming for him right now. Plenty of people online saw Fetty Wap's release as a moment to celebrate, not a reason for beef. One post even mentioned those standing ovations when he came home, showing pure respect for a man who served his time without stirring chaos. In the streets, how you carry yourself during your bid speaks volumes. Fetty did his time quietly. No wild claims, no messy statements, no added conflict behind bars. That kind of calm earns a certain level of respect. It doesn't make you untouchable, but it keeps unnecessary drama off your back. When someone handles their sentence with composure and doesn't feed the noise, they usually come home with way fewer problems waiting for them. But that brings up the bigger question: what's next? Because while Fetty Wap's legal situation is making headlines again, his music career had already been on a steep decline before he got locked up. To really understand where he stands now, you gotta rewind to his rise and fall. Back in 2015, Fetty was unstoppable. Trap Queen was everywhere, blasting from cars, clubs, and radio stations non-stop. It hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a full-on cultural moment. His melodic trap sound reshaped the scene, inspiring a whole new wave of artists. After that, he stayed on fire. 6, 7, 9 and My Way were both massive. He got Grammy nods, his debut album went platinum, and it looked like he was about to lock in as one of hip-hop's biggest stars. But then, it all slowed down. Industry insiders called it early. Fetty had the hits, but not the staying power. He had a moment of dominance, but not a long-term grip on the top. By the time 2021 rolled around and the feds picked him up, his fame had already faded heavy. His sound, that emotional melodic trap vibe, had been copied by countless new artists. What once felt fresh was now everywhere, and the game had moved on. Fetty didn't switch it up fast enough to keep up with the wave, and by the time he tried to catch it again, the world had changed. Fetty Wap's later releases never quite brought back the lightning-in-a-bottle magic of Trap Queen. On top of that, personal heartbreak hit him hard. In 2021, he dropped the Butterfly Effect mixtape, a deeply emotional project dedicated to his 4-year-old daughter, who tragically passed away from cardiac arrhythmia that June. That loss was devastating. Grief like that changes everything. It can fuel art for some, but for others, it crushes focus and drains creativity completely. During the pandemic, fans on X called Fetty's story a cautionary tale. When lockdowns hit, live performances, the main cash flow for most artists, vanished overnight. Touring fills pockets, streaming barely pays. Artists already slipping in sales got hit hardest, and Fetty was one of them. His music wasn't charting like before, and when touring shut down, the financial strain must have been intense. It doesn't excuse what came next, but it helps explain how the pressure could have pushed him back into the streets. Now he's standing at a crossroads, trying to rebuild from one of the toughest positions in the game. The music industry doesn't wait for anyone. 3 years locked away might as well be a lifetime. Trends evolve, new artists take over, and the algorithms favor whoever's hot right now. When you disappear, even for a little while, it's like starting over from zero. Fetty still has nostalgia working for him. Trap Queen is a cultural time capsule. People remember 2015, the sound, the vibe, the way that record made everything feel bigger. But nostalgia only goes so far. It can remind folks who you were, not guarantee who you'll be next. If there's any path forward, it's an evolution. Fetty can't just recreate Trap Queen, that moment's long gone, but he could tap into the essence of what made it special and flip it into something new. The question is, will the industry let him? Will top producers take a chance on him again? Will labels invest? Or will artists risk featuring with someone coming fresh out of federal supervision? His next move needs to be bold, fresh, and undeniable. Because this time, he's got no room for second chances. Fetty Wap's legal past makes everything more complicated. Some artists and labels get nervous about working with someone who just walked out the feds. The stigma, the restrictions, the extra attention from probation, it all makes people hesitate. But others might see it differently. Some will respect that he took his sentence on the chin and came home without pointing fingers. Others may see him as someone with a real story to tell, one that the industry hasn't heard in full yet. But here's the truth. Fans don't buy redemption, they buy good music. Fetty can talk about giving back to the community, guiding the youth, or staying clean. And that's all solid. But those words won't move streams unless the music hits. People support tracks that connect with them, not just life lessons. His personal growth means the world to him and his family, but the music world runs on what gets replayed, not what gets forgiven, and the criticism around him isn't going away anytime soon. A lot of people still feel uncomfortable celebrating someone who once moved serious product. This wasn't minor stuff. We're talking over 100 kilos of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack. Fentanyl alone has devastated entire communities, taking tens of thousands of lives every year. To some, celebrating a man tied to that is just hard to justify. So now Fetty's got to prove himself all over again, through his art, not his past. Nostalgia might give him a short boost. People will tune in just to see if he still has it. But staying in the game takes more than memories. It takes hits that stick. Can he deliver songs that people actually want to run back again and again? That's the real question. And even beyond the music, his supervised release is another mountain. Random drug tests, every dollar tracked, and restrictions on travel. Even recording sessions or shows need approval from his probation officer. It's a tight box for any artist trying to move like a professional. Still, if anyone can flip the narrative, it's Fetty Wap, the man who turned Trap Queen into an anthem and a movement. Now it's on him to write his comeback story one verse at a time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share to keep the story alive. Your support helps the channel grow. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.